Oh man, people are so full of shit. And I say that being one, like, I remember telling people the same very thing, the very same thing that I've heard just now, like, over the past week, you know. People are like, oh, these islands, they'll kick people out, you know, and this, that, and the next, or they'll keep you here if they really want you here. And something that I realized, because back home in Asheville, people used to say the same thing all the time. And what I realized is, like, there's a little bit of spiritual ignorance there. Like, it's something that I think people say when they're, like, stuck somewhere that they used to want to be, but are no longer, like, necessarily resonating with where they're at, which more than anything is just internally, because as within, so without, right? The difference is they externalize it onto their environment. And there's somewhat of like a othering that takes place, like a pride about being where you live, and, you know, kind of cancel culturing other people that you don't want to be there. And I just experienced this, like, really heavily today. And I wasn't, to be quite honest with you, like, when I left the space, I was overjoyed. I was like, and I even knew, like, that, like, today, I was like, I'm going to walk away from this environment and I'm not going to come back. So what I'm learning from this is that, you know, there's a little bit of spiritual ego at play, yes, and just because you live somewhere beautiful and it's a place that everybody loves to, you know, vacation at, and, like, you're there, doesn't mean that you're as privileged as you think you are. I mean, if we're talking about this from a spiritual standpoint, the soul needs to go places in order to learn lessons. And what people learn here is unconditional love. Where I'm from, people learn internal adaptation and growth like a seed. It's a lot of shadow work. It's a lot of, you know, mental readjusting. It's you know, changing with the seasons and adapting to the fluctuations and the shifts of energy. Here it's like that, yes, but it's also just like washing away, lots of ocean energy, lots of flow, but then also learning how to love unconditionally. I'll give you an example. I spent a couple months caregiving for a woman who ended up having to do the same thing for her mother, and subsequently, like, all these older people around her. And she had been telling me, or, you know, just kind of confessing out loud, like, this is like a theme that's been taking place within the past couple years of my life. Like, why is this a thing? And taking a look at her life from what she shared with me, and, like, what I was able to look at personally in my engagements with her, it was like, well, to be honest, like, you're probably having to learn to do that so that you can learn to be more respectful of other people, because so far as what I've seen, you've, like, spent the majority of your life, like, freeloading off of, you know, your family's wealth and fucking around and finding out and being a brat. I mean, just like, dude, I'm tired of the brats. I'm tired of these people who feel like they deserve everything and then turn around and literally act like children and cry and talk about how the situations in their life aren't fair, and they just can't handle how difficult everything is because they're so used to everyone else taking care of everything for them. Whoa. And to be quite honest with you, it's predominantly women my age, like women in their 30s and their late 20s, and it's like, Jesus Christ, dude, like, you still haven't grown up from, like, middle school, high school. Like, you're still in this like lower consciousness, like talking about people and like shitting all over, or just like gossiping. And like, I was like, you can have that, sister. You can have that. Because like all the wealth that your family ever worked for, ever sold their souls for, knowing who some of these people are connected to and ways that they contributed to history, it's just like, you're going to lose all of that within a generation. Most wealth doesn't exceed past 3 generations, right? And people like the Rothschilds have done it for 6 or 7. Okay, they're like on their 7th generation of like generational wealth. The only reason, and actually it's much older than that because people don't know their fucking history, it's generational wealth per this new age. Previously the industrial age, right? Now we're in the information age, and they've transcended into and segued into another age. But all of that's changing soon, so it's irrelevant. All of these people have so many problems that I'm quite honestly thankful that I don't have to put up with. And in some ways, I'm sure I did several lifetimes ago. I'm just learning a very important lesson of, despite my attempts to continue to play small and play safe like everybody else, God has a higher path for me. God will not allow me to get comfortable in the smallness of where I previously was as a person, because God's got way bigger plans for me. Goddess, the universe, Great Spirit, Creator, Creatrix. And I'm learning to accept that. And so coming back to the spiritual environment, the lessons to be learned in these places, I'm living a very like nomadic lifestyle right now. I'm on pilgrimage. I am going through what is called Imrama. It's a word, and I love this. It's Irish. Shout out to my Celts, right? And my Irish before the Celts, right? Hey, those of you who know history. Imrama is a spiritual pilgrimage across seas, an otherworldly voyage to distant islands to be able to accrue spiritual knowledge and wisdom, to heighten the awareness of oneself and soul, and to awaken cellular memory. I'm learning all about this in a beautiful book called The Lost Lands of Lemuria, Atlantis, and Avalon, written by Lucy Cavendish, if I'm not mistaken. And so, sorry, the light goes out sometimes and I gotta bring it back because that's what I do in the Shadow Realms. Imrama is one of those words. I love this word because it's a concept word. It means, in an idea encapsulated inside one word. So you've got this concept, Imrama, this spiritual pilgrimage, specifically to islands, that I just so happened to find in a book while I'm on an island, away from home, learning spiritual lessons. Learning how to flow with the energies, deepening my unconditional love and capacity for that, for myself, continuing to heal through previous traumas, most recent. And I have a very strong sense that God is preparing to return me within a couple months back home with this new energy integrated, and to carry that into my land, this little seed, and to plant it there. 10-10, shit. That's crazy. And so it's like I'm a seed carrier, right? And not everybody is meant, it's not like just because you leave this spiritually, center point, if you will. Places like here, like Asheville, North Carolina, like they attract a lot of spiritual energy. There are ley lines, there are energy fields, energy grids that run through the earth. The earth has its own meridians, and where the energies intersect are where the energy is most concentrated. All the major cities all across the world, they all have been developed and built over time across ley lines. I'm traveling to certain ones to accrue spiritual knowledge, and then to take it back and reintegrate it into my homeland. And there's significance there. And so this is just fair warning. Be mindful of when you say things like, oh, people, it either kicks you out or, keeps you, because sometimes like you get stuck in a place because you haven't learned the lesson. And funny thing, fellow audio engineer of mine shared with me that the first day that he arrived in Asheville, he said, I met this homeless man, and he told me the secret about Asheville. He said, this land is cursed. But the thing is, there's a trick to it. He was like, you can get out, and all you have to do is learn the lessons that you came here to learn. But the reason why people get trapped and cursed in this land is because they don't learn the lesson, or if they do, they never leave. And I'm here to tell you, I lived there for 15 years. Some people live there their whole lives, right? And it's a beautiful place to live. And it's not like I got kicked out. God picked me up and moved me and brought me back and moved me again, and is going to bring me right back because I'm on a mission. All right? Some of us are on a mission. Some of us actually have like a divine purpose that we're fulfilling as we carry ourselves through the world. 1313. And there's significance to the places that we go. And just because we leave doesn't mean we're getting kicked out, or we did a piss poor job at showing up and operating in that space. Quite honestly, some people can't handle your fucking high vibes sometimes. And I just, once again, found myself trying to assimilate into a group of some low-level, based ass, having ass, no good motherfuckers who want to piss and shit in the sandbox with everybody else, and then turn around and pretend that they're better somehow because they can do a bunch of menial tasks like fucking robots. I'm overqualified and I'm under-challenged. I don't know what to tell you. And if you can't see real for real, because real recognize real, and I don't recognize you, homie, then that's a wrap. So moving forward, I have to double down. I have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, doing things I've never done before, or doing things I have, but scaling it to an even bigger level. And it's just like, it's so crazy to me thinking about that. And another thing too, if you show up in the right ways, Spirit will elevate you and graduate you into an entirely different path than you previously thought you were going. Early on in my life, I knew I was going to be a musician. I knew I was going to be a singer. I was going to be a rock star. And who knows, man, I still might. But the thing is, when you, even as a soul here, having a human experience and having agreed to certain situations to take place in your life so that you could grow through those experiences, you can sometimes throw a curveball and surprise even Spirit, even your ancestors, even your spirit guides. And I'm very certain that that's the thing that I did, because they don't expect you to take an unexpected turn, which in a lot of ways is something like Sophia, something Sophia would do, being the wisdom goddess. Everybody thinks you've got two choices, but it's the space in the middle that is, in a sense, its own path. And so I'm very interested to see where things go from here. All I know is I've got some deeply divine spiritual gifts, and they've only been getting stronger. Because, man, reading the minds of the people around me today was just nauseating, and I could not wait to get out of there. I was so grateful when I left. I was like, what a drag, dude. And the funny thing is, it's like Spirit's throwing affirmations at me on my YouTube feed, you know, the videos that I'm drawn and attracted to, and I'm learning about pendulums, which are thought forms from this MT, which was dope. Like, this dude, I'll put a link in his channel and below for his channel. But it was like, I had this MT talking to me, which I think is a medical license term. And he was explaining very cerebral, like psychological, but deeply spiritual concepts. And it was the affirmation of exactly what I was going through, because it was like, people will seek to bring down your energy, okay? And if they can't do it, then they have to get other people around them to join forces to seek to bring you down. And it's not the first time that I've had this happen. And shortly thereafter, people realize after enough time passes that they can't fucking take me out. And then they start gang stalking me and trying to keep tabs on me and like send people that I don't know after me to try and fucking get information and like take notes on what I'm fucking doing, because they don't know how to do it, because they aren't real. I get mistaken for being in my early 20s all the time, especially after a clean shave. And I'm 33. Let there be light. That says I. I'm 33. What do you chalk that up to? I chalk it up to living a good, wholesome life, standing in integrity and in alignment with my values and my beliefs, and seeking to purify my chamber, my vessel, this conduit, this amazing, intelligent instrument which has been designed by the Most High, the one true living God. People can try all they want with all the makeup and all the clothes and all the surgeries and laser zaps for zits and Botox for their lips to look like I do, and they still can't fucking do it. Why? Because they don't know how to take care of their soul. They're running around in hollow vessels. That's all, you know, like learn to lengthen your telomeres. And if you don't know what the fuck that word is, homie, like check it out. Greg Braden official on YouTube. I'm just past the point, like, trying to put this in, like, a pretty little package for y'all. Like, true spiritual evolution and, like, advancement of the soul is messy. It's not pretty, it's not polite, it's not false light, you know, like, just spiritually bypass everything away. And I'm seeing a lot of people jump ship right now because they're afraid to go where they've never gone before. You know, there's a lot of talk right now, especially about like the born again, like Christian newcomers, where they have their coming to Christ moment and it's like they snap, they hit a wall, they bounce back off of it, and then they go the opposite direction. And yes, there are definitely like traps. The New Age, and you know, I've posted my thoughts about the New Age before, I'll do it again. It's a running theme. There's nothing new under the sun. It's all processions and cycles of time. Incredibly long cycles of time. Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. And people just don't keep those things in context. I literally had a past life remembrance of being a Lemurian growing up in Atlantis. And here I am, of Lemurian heart. I have Hawaiians, like true to life, born and raised, lived here all their fucking life, Hawaiians telling me I've got more aloha than some of the Hawaiians they've grown up around their whole life. There's a reason for that. And it's because I've been here before. I'm coming back home to a home that was mine before this life. And the ironic thing is, back home in Asheville, in this life, there is an immensely, like, heavily unintegrated, reverberated echo of Atlantis in those mountains. It attracts a lot of people. It attracts a lot of technologically minded people. A lot of people who like to laser cut a bunch of fucking sacred geometry designs into wood and plaster it with a bunch of fucking glue and turn around and sell it at EDM festivals while people are shaking their ass in laser light, cracked out on, you know, drugs, a bunch of like little crystals that they just crush into powders and snort or smoke. I don't know what the hell is up with this alarm, but twice now it's interrupted me. That is significant. I just haven't figured out how. But what I'm getting at, like these collections of souls, like I'm beginning to see it express itself in different ways. You know, Appalachia has a very eclectic mix of Avalon and Atlantis. And, you know, maybe a dash of Lemuria somehow. But, you know, there's very little evidence of Lemuria, like, making it to the Americas. Not necessarily true, because I did some homework and it turns out that post Lemurian Atlantean War, which is actually the supposed cause of the Younger Dryas periods of the Ice Age and the flooding, the biblical deluge, the flood that exists in every creation myth story of every culture on the face of the earth, because we all have a collective memory of this event taking place, which wasn't the first time that something like that, a gigantic worldwide cataclysm, took place. And it's certainly more so my belief now that it was the cause of war between two factions, more so than it was this just like snap, crackle, pop, ice age type of moment. Everybody talks about it happening all of a sudden, very rapidly, without warning. And, you know, natural occurrences, natural events, like weather, it builds over time. There's a feeling in the air, there's a change. All of a sudden, like, you know, the animals go quiet, and like there are warning signs that nature is letting you know, like, hey. But any kind of man-made like weather manipulation, especially through the means of technology, it happens out of nowhere, dude. And that's the thing. People, even in this day and age, with as fast as technology is like accelerating, like people think we can't control the weather. Like I've literally read like US patents for like devices built back before World War II. And that was like, fuck, dude. It was like 80 years ago. And we had weather manipulation devices then, 80 years ago, like almost a century. So all of this to say is, you know, there are still people living out these unresolved, like, soul wounds that the earth is seeking, desperately pleading for us to resolve before she moves on without our ass. Because, like, where she's headed, because keep in mind, she too is a sentient, spiritual being inside of a three-dimensional material vessel, seeking to grow and to learn and understand like everybody else, holding us all together in the midst of it. She too is evolving and has to evolve, needs to evolve, will inevitably evolve, and we'll have no choice but to participate unless we really want to resist. And what that looks like is more pain and more suffering to an unnecessary degree. More cataclysm. I mean, the cataclysm type stuff you can't necessarily avoid, but it's like how you respond to it, how you interact with it, how you work with it, right? And it happens because there's a growth moment. It's Aries energy, dude. Like straight up. Like I know this energy. It's like bursting through concrete to sprout, to spring forth, to explode and initiate life. Like that is Aries. That's the sign, right? The horns. But it's more than horns. It's like a pouring, it's a sprouting, it's fireworks, like it's everything. People think Scorpios are deep. Suck my dick, Asheville.